Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We have Michelle from Dext. So I actually did not, I just kind of went rogue on this. So it's going to be very interesting with this. They're like, can we get a copy of the deck? So I didn't have Michelle's information to give him his own slide. So before we go in, Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm happy I'll get my 2 seconds in here, but my name is Michelle, right? Just like the girl's name. I'm one of the senior partner success consultants. Sorry, but I'm senior. What do I do here? I'm an account executive. All right, I'll tell you what I do. I talk to people just like you, people who are brand new to the game, like have never heard about Dex before, or just haven't set it up yet. So I'll kind of figure out together if Dex is going to be a good fit for you guys, if it's something that's going to save you time, if it's going to work well for your practice, and kind of solve a couple issues. And usually that comes with like, I don't have enough time in my day. I'm uploading and doing a lot of manual data entry. Just nobody really likes that, right, Sandra? Okay,
Nobody.
No, okay, all right. And I'm struggling to collect documents for my clients. Like if you have one of those issues, then you're probably in the right place talking to me, and then I will have to figure out from there. Okay, that's kind of what I do, Tanya. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, we'll just pop into, I'll do a screen share. Here we are. Okay, so here's our slide deck. So most of you probably know me. I am Tanya Hills. I'm a certified professional bookkeeper and an accredited impactful advisor. And I'm here because I'm passionate about education and clean files. The one thing I've actually been dealing with audits and taxes since 1997, yet I've only been bookkeeping for 13 years. So I am, when it comes to the cleanliness of the file, I know exactly what the government is looking for audits. And so we kind of come at things backwards. So that makes this, perfect. When I was like, yes, absolutely, we'll talk about this. A little bit about me. I'm part of the Intuit, or I lead, I guess, the Intuit Global Firm of the Future for 2018 team. Named as Insightful Accountant Top 100 Pro Advisor for 2018 through 2021. I guess we haven't done 2022 yet. No, 2022. It hasn't been updated. Founder of Club Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp, level 5 certified advisor through Mentor Plus, where I earned my AIA, and a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. I have also brought along with me today Sandra. Sandra is one of my team members. You may know her from conferences if you guys have seen her. She doesn't usually come on to this. So this is her first time being a guest on a webinar. So we need to be very gentle with her. But she is the power user. So when they said it was the best practices, I know the theory. I still work in it every day. I have 3 clients' files that I work on and my own files. So I'm in 4 files daily, but they're not, obviously I'm not utilizing with the number of files and the number of hours that Sandra's in there. So there are some things that I may be a little bit behind the 8 ball on, or Sandra may have learned extra by playing around. So we brought her in. So she is, of course, was with me and part of the Intuit Global Firm of the Future 2018 team. She's been over 5 years with us. She is our bookkeeping services manager, and she's a very heavy Dext user, and she actually trains others on Dext. And she is currently has her technician level, working towards her CPB. So I don't, do you want to say hi, Sandra, first off? Hi. There you go. All right. So some of you, I guess, or most of you who've been to my notes, that I kind of like to start off with a quote that is relevant. So Sandra and I picked this quote together, and with organization comes empowerment. And that is just so true. And Dext helps keep us organized. They are the only system that we use for document collection. There's one client that kind of submits, we use Lisio for CRM. One client submits through there because she doesn't want to use her phone. We're like, fine, we'll make an exception for her. But I'll tell you, we charge more because it's not as easy and we've got more to do. But otherwise, everybody 100% on Dext. If they do not want to use Dext, they do not want to use us. And that's all there is to it. It is our Dext stack, or our tech stack, QBO, Dext, absolutely a must. And of course, lack of organization leads to getting nothing accomplished. And I know before Dext, before working online, I felt like that guy. And some days I still feel like that guy when we log in and go, oh my gosh, somebody just uploaded 1,000, sheets of paper or something, which is why we don't like to work with people that do that. every single day. So because we don't want to feel like this. So this is where the first fun part comes in. So first we're going to do a quick poll. Then we're going to do something fun. And this is what I did the other day because I got bored. And when I get bored and creative, God knows what's going to happen. So let's get this poll launched first off. So poll 1 launched. Are you a current user of Dext Prepare? So this will qualify for CPD credits. You need to answer 2 of the 3 polls in order to get your CPD credits. So we'll just give people a couple of extra minutes. It's still coming in. We've got, a lot of yeses. We still got 30% no's. So hopefully we're going to be able to teach some of those yeses some, good tips and tricks today. And some of the no's, maybe we can convert. So,
in the meantime, I actually have a question for Sandra, Tanya.
Jump in. Okay.
Sandra, what's your number? How many clients do you actually handle, let's say on a weekly basis within Dext?
So it is a little bit less now that I am manager and I have a team underneath me, but I would say that at our max, I would probably say between, 10 and 20, I would say. There was for the most part of it.
20. I'd say more than 20. I definitely say more than 20 because we've got 50 clients. They're not all on Dext. Well, yeah, I guess maybe 25 on Dext.
Yeah.
And you definitely took more than half of them.
Yeah. So about that. Yeah. Because I know that Leanne still had some as well. But yeah, for the most part of it, that's it. But yeah, now I'm slowly inching my way out and giving some more to my team, but I'm still in there every day.
Well, okay. So hopefully when you have 20 clients and you're not using Dext, you probably feel like this little guy right there. But you survived. So
I absolutely would. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking with somebody on a call the other day and they said something about somebody dropping off paper. And I said, what? They said, oh yeah, I dropped off a box of paper. And what? She didn't get it right away. And I'm like, no, that's a bad paper. No, bad word Dext. But she is going to be putting everything into Dext and charging a premium for the service to get it into Dext, but she's not working from paper. That's I'm like, what did I hear? What did I hear?
God. All right.
Okay. So the fun part is this is the very first, I believe, story time with Dext. So I am going to play this. We have this and when you got a little, and if anybody's looking for this is, we will be putting this out on our YouTube channel so it can be shared as long as we've got permission from Dext. Because again, Michelle has the only Dext person and saw it for the first time 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. So I just need to share my
I'm under the gun now. It looks good, Tanya. Like it's at the end of the day, it's what you understand for Dext, and you guys are king, right? We take a lot of information from partners and we try to change it. So I love it. Love the creativity.
Absolutely. Here. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay. I have to stop sharing and start sharing. I do believe to share the sound. Share sound. Okay, so I'm going to put this full screen. It's a minute 43 seconds. Hopefully you guys can hear the sound. There's lovely music that goes with it. But this is a day in the life of some of our clients. This is true. So these are true stories other than the names, but this is exactly what has happened. And we have gotten some clients. We've got one client because we used Dext and they went to somebody else that used something else, would not. So we do have people calling us, asking us specifically, do you use Dext, even though it's on our website? All right, so here we go. Why is it not showing? That's very strange. Let's try again. I might not be able to go. There we are. so much fun with that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. And if it was corny, let me know and I'll never do another one again. If it was cute, I will do those for my other webinars. So please go ahead and put your comments in the chat or whatnot so that I know, or in the Q&A. Now we do have Leanne is going to be in the background watching the Q&A. So any questions, go ahead, pop them in there. This is, we really want to focus on, again, how we use this as efficiently as we do. And I will confirm that on 90% of the cases, we still review every single receipt. That is an internal procedure, which I know sometimes can be different between the engagement the client has, and especially the US to Canada, whereas the US does, a lot of cash accounting. So I looked up real figures and real stats. And on average in North America, the average business owner will lose 12 days a year of lost time chasing down missing receipts, which equates to $4,700 of lost revenue just on their time alone. That's pretty staggering. And these are numbers you can now take and share with your clients. The true cost of missing receipts also includes paying more in bookkeeping, paying more in taxes, the risk of a tax review or audit, a client potentially skewing the numbers, and bottom line is lost money. Now, last night, as I was looking around, because I like to back something up when I'm talking stats, and then right after this, we're going to get right into the meat of it. But in 2015, and this is the only place I could find the stats is for US. So in 2015, a Uber driver in Arizona, he had several vehicles and several drivers all using his account. Uber reported paying him $542,000, 143,600 was withheld in fees. The drivers were paid cash and some of them were in EFT. The EFTs totaled, or ACH, I guess, totaled $157,800. After all of his payouts, he came that he owed $19,000 of income that he had to report on his tax return. IRS came in, and IRS is usually not as strict as Canada, so I was really surprised with this. But due to missing receipts, they reassessed him from $19,000 in taxable income to $240,000 in taxable income due to missing receipts. And there is nothing easier than taking, especially in today's world, everybody has a cell phone. And we actually did have a hockey team, a farm team to a major NHL team. Essentially we had, and they said, the guys aren't, because I said the big thing was the players didn't submit their expense receipts. And I said, can the players take a selfie? He said, of course they can. I said, then they can submit their receipt. It is that easy. Anybody who can take a selfie can get their receipts in. So there are some actual stats that you have if you are trying to talk to a client and figure out why. And again, they have their cell phone. Take a picture right away. Take a picture before they go home and throw their pants in the washing machine. I mean, we've got truckers and we've had some interesting shots, different areas in the car, or lap shots, as we'll call them. But you know what? It doesn't matter as long as we get the information and there's nothing obscene. I really don't care, because now we have the receipt before coffee got spilled over it, before it sat on the dash and the sun made it, bleached it, and they're unable to use it. So highly, highly important to use this. And I will say that since we started using Dext and went solely to Dext with zero paper, I actually don't get sick anymore. The germs that can carry, even when I did taxes during COVID, I used to get sick all the time. And it was because I was touching everything and, paper as soon as clients were dropping it down. So there you go. There's a healthy reason to use Dext as well. So who do we use Dext for? And Sandra, please jump in, because you are the power user through all of these. So we use Dext for our regular bookkeeping clients, cleanup or catch-up jobs, small sole props that may not necessarily use accounting software, hobby businesses that may not necessarily use accounting software, and expense reports. Are there any other use cases, or does that kind of sum it up in big one?
I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, even my husband, he is a small sole prop, and I have him on Dext because there was no way I was doing his bookkeeping without that. And honestly, he's very diligent about taking pictures of his receipts and getting them in for me. And had I not had Dext, I don't think I would have those receipts, and he would be one of those people paying much higher taxes.
Well, it's my husband. His side business is on Dext as well. He's not on QBO, but he's on Dext. So we will show you how you can do that, or discuss how you can do that very easily. There's so many use cases. So Sandra, do you just want to jump in and just kind of talk about the process with our regular bookkeeping clients?
Sure. Yeah, they pretty much snap a picture, they upload it to Dext, and we pretty much take it from there. We go in and we set the supplier rules, and so that way it's set and done. And it makes it very easy to kind of continue through. Like you said, we do review every receipt, just looking at dates and amounts and what have you, and just making sure the tax is correct on there. But it definitely makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And the
Yeah.
tax, it's something that we do look at, because up here in Canada, we still have some, and I want to say, I think Petro-Canada is the one that they have. It's still the GST and the HST, even though in Ontario, we only have one tax now, they still like to separate it out sometimes on that, or if somebody goes to another province. So sometimes, like the OCR, there's only so much the OCR and the AI can do. The receipts can get a little more complex, or somebody's handwriting. So that's why we still review every receipt for accuracy. So Leanne's come on right now. So I think it means we've got some questions already, and pop them in, because I'd rather have you ask before you forget. So we have questions that are relevant right now then, are there?
Well, we do, because one person has asked, what is OCR? So for those who are still new to the technology, let's make sure they understand. And then there is a quick question there as well about previously you had to purchase so many spots with Dext. And so basically the question is, do you still need to purchase like a minimum of 10 spots? Is there any sort of plans that way? Michelle, what is the current onboarding look like for new clients?
I'd say it that way. Like, why don't we wait? Like, say that.
Do you want to wait until after? Okay, so
No. I'm happy to answer. I'll quickly answer here. So OCR technology, it stands for optical character recognition. I had to look this up as well. But
I looked it up too.
What it basically means is that our computer or AI technology has been around for 11 years now. So it reads the invoice or receipt, and it picks actually the dates, the amounts, the words like supplier name and stuff like that we're looking for. So quite a bit of fields. And then it will kind of spew it back to you or fill it in for you with a 99.7% accuracy. So I'm actually really surprised that you still have to check things, but better safe than sorry. And it goes a lot faster when it's already filled in.
Well,
so that's OCR.
The date is important on some things, because again, the OCR and the AI is only as smart as the receipt is. If we have a receipt with the date format, month, day, year, and there's day, month, year, it's going to come in and it's going to pick what would make sense. But that's the biggest. We're in April. We haven't hit October, so that's got to be April 10th, not October 4th. Right?
Exactly. And it's a Canada issue. So for the people in the States, well, you guys figured it out. It's all the same there. The people in France and the UK and New Zealand, they figured it out. It's all the same. It's only Canada where it's like the Wild West of dates.
There we go. Exactly.
Now, the other question I'll probably talk about later, but just to quickly say, like we do have the system with seats. We kind of made it a little bit easier. So you can start with 5 and it's increments of 5 as we go. So we changed a couple of things. We listened to a lot of people, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Tanya, go ahead.
And there are ways, when we talk about that, there are ways, workaround ways, not through the accounting plan, that you can purchase just one at a time. So we can, again, there's other ways around it. And I'll make sure that you guys hear that when we talk about that, like when Michelle talks about that. So yeah. And so there are certain reasons. Again, you're right. It's the Wild West here when it comes to dates. The reason being is because some of we are a Commonwealth country, which means that we come, again, we're attached to Europe. Some of our is still stuck to that, our date formats, but a lot of our larger companies have had offices in the States, because physically we are attached right next to you. So that makes sense. So that's why it's kind of, we're all over the place with that. So we do receive, for that. And again, the tax, again, it's a Canadian issue, the way that it is put in there and the way that it's out there. Another one that we do want to take a look at is, again, if somebody's handwriting. It's pretty good sometimes, but it may do that. The OCR may also pick up Petro-Canada, or Esso or whatever one of our gas stations is, for those in the States that are like, I've never heard of those places, but the gas station, and at the end of it, it'll say Toronto or this or that. So again, the OCR recognizes that, oh, there's nothing in there, that's a new one. So it will put it in there. So again, we review for the accuracy on that, but there are ways to take care of that and to tell it, the software, next time it's all the same thing. And we're going to show you that later too. So yeah, there's reasons. And again, my auditing background is why I insist we review every single receipt for accuracy most of the time. On my own file, I actually don't. Mine's the only file I don't. So cleanup and catch ups. So I guess I'll talk on this because I'm going through this with Sandra now, kind of on that. But the best way that we find to do a cleanup or catch up job is, and we do have multiple service levels depending, and this is where we may look at all the receipts, we may not, but we used to do cleanup jobs or catch up jobs, just, work a month at a time. We don't do that anymore. So this is kind of, we're going through with Sandra. Here's my vision. And I took the biggest, ugliest file that we had for cleanups. And I said, this is how we're doing it. So basically we tell the client, submit all your receipts. We're not even getting started till they're all up there. And this is where the beauty that of Dext and the AI comes in, and supplier rules for when it's not using the AI, is when all the receipts come in, if the client does submit 1,000 receipts, we go in and first thing that we do is we sort by date, just to check and see if there's that little date issue of something that doesn't make sense. Then we go in and we sort by supplier. We'll add the supplier rule to the first one. So I'll take a look. We'll look at the receipts and say, yep, everything looks fine. This is, Bell Canada or Verizon or whatever. It's a telephone company. We're going to go in ahead and put, every time this comes, this is the account we want it to go to. We want the, the tax to either go to the HST, or we want it to extract. We personally use extract because sometimes it can be up by a penny or two. So extract means it reads the exact number and doesn't use the other rules. And then boom, I put that in. And if there's 20 Verizons, they all fill in. And then we just have to, quickly look. Now, sometimes we do look at every single receipt. Sometimes we don't. It depends on what that client is paying for in the service level. Some service levels we have that they just pay us to go in and do a spot check, in which case we're looking at one receipt for every supplier to make sure, it's there, everything's reading properly. We don't need to change any of the rules. And then we go in and we look for the special items that maybe they went to, Business Depot and bought $1,000 computer that now we know that's not office supplies, that needs to go somewhere else. So we go in and we look for things. We look at their gas receipts to make sure that they didn't buy water or chips or pop or something. So we do that, but by having them submit all the receipts at once, going in and setting those supplier rules, we are able to save a ton of time. And then basically once we go through and have it sorted by supplier, we can just go through it. Every supplier is good. And then you can either push them through a supplier at a time, or you can review them all, push them all through at once, whatever you want to do, but it's so much easier to sort and go through at that point. So I don't know, Sandra or Michelle, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add on that point?
I'll just say, for people who don't know the terminology, supplier rules, it is basically control automation. You can choose how much you can set up the specific rule for that specific supplier, for that specific client. That's it. Other than that, Tanya, I think.
Perfect. Now, the beauty of this too is, let's say that you do have somebody who's working from their, from a home office, they're a sole prop and they're using, a certain percentage. You can actually set up split rules as well that says when their internet comes in, 50% goes to, business and 50% goes to, an owner's draw or shareholder's draw type of thing. So you can preset things like that are used both personal and business to do that based on the percentage of the bills and amount, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Is that right? Both,
yep.
Either one or the other. Yeah. So there's lots that you can do with that. Sandra, was there anything else you wanted to add as you're going through? And
no, I think you pretty much covered it, but yeah, it definitely saves hours upon hours having us do it that way. So
Absolutely. So you're like one of those happy accountants and bookkeepers at the end, getting ready to go dancing with Jane, right?
That's right.
And I'm sorry for anybody that thought that was cheesy. I'd love to use again, see a little bit of feedback as to if you guys ever want to see one of those again or not, because I won't do it again if you don't want to see them again. Anyway, so small sole props, no accounting software used. How do we do this? This was actually my account manager at Dext who told me this. So you account managers, you're more than just another pretty face there, Michelle. It was actually Eric who told me, who's long gone from there. But yes, you guys, because you talked to us about the use case scenarios, you guys still know other use case scenarios. And this is, for just tax time. And this is where I do for my husband. And I think Sandra, you're as well the same, because I don't think Jeff has a QBO file, does he?
He does have a QBO
Oh, he
file
does.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you use it a little differently. So I'll go through how I use it with my husband's, and you can talk how you use it with Jeff's. So essentially what we do is my husband, he's got a crypto mining and business. It's more than a hobby business. So we do claim it. So it's more than just investments. He actually does the mining, and I'm just sick and tired of everything. So I put it on his phone. He is so inept when it comes to technology. He can barely send a text. I love him dearly, but he just is not that good. He does this. He does it well. He's like, oh, I can do this. Again, he can forward in, or he can just simply take a picture. And it took very little teaching on that. So he actually gets excited to be able to pull it out because he does something right. He's like, oh, look, I did it right. I did it right. Looking for that gold star. But what we do is we've got a chart of accounts that we imported into Dext. Instead of connecting it to the software, we can import a chart of accounts. So in Canada, our sole prop returns, it's done on our personal returns. It's called the T2125. I'm not sure the terminology in the IRS, but I know you guys have the exact same thing, where we're just adding in the business income and the business expenses, which essentially comes from the personal. So we put that in there to pull to match our tax return lines. So it all goes in there. I don't even look at it until the end of the year. I just go in and, match it all, code it all, boom, pull one report, and that is ready to go directly into the tax accounting software. And it is beautiful. Sandra, how do you, is there anything different that you do with that then for Jeff, or just normally like any normal client?
I just do it like any normal client, but I have to say, before I started doing his books, I did actually use it to pull into an expense report to give to the accountant. And that's how we had done it before, which made it really, really easy because everything was in the expense report, and we used to give it off to the accountant for his HST before I started doing it. And it saved us a ton of time and a ton of money because it was just an easy way to pull all the information.
Well, and so that's what I'm pulling it into. So the report I'm pulling is an expense report. And then we just tick off the whole year, pull it all into an expense report. And again, it organizes it by the chart of accounts that we've got entered. Okay, Leanne's coming on, which means there's another relevant question.
So there's a lot of kind of like, as we're talking about how to use type questions. So I thought this might help kind of direct. So first off,
why we're here. You said
that's why you're here. So
exactly.
First off, a couple of tax questions. So I know this is going to be something that we've set up on a few clients. So the first one is to achieve a 50% GST code. So this is for the nonprofit users, where they want to bring over a specific 50% of the GST. At least I believe that's what the question is.
Yes.
Not, please pop it in the chat and make sure
that's what I would take that at. Yep.
Correct it. So I'll let you answer that. And then I've got another tax question here about rebates.
And that would be, I'm going to answer both of them at the same time.
Then I will let you.
Both have essentially the same answer. So we've got anonymous user and Katie. So I am now answering both of yours. So that would be directly derived from the tax code in QBO. Now we only use QBO. I'm assuming if you're using any other type of software, it probably works the same. So we are a 100% QBO firm. So that's the only thing that I can state for certain. So in QBO, we set up the charity tax codes in there. We also have a client who is a physiotherapist who can only claim a percentage because her physiotherapy side of things is not taxable income, but massage is. So she can only claim 15%. So again, it's the same type of thing. We're getting into custom codes. That code is set up in QuickBooks, and then we just set it up in Dext to pull those codes. So we don't go by extract only on those. We actually put that in to use those codes as the default in Dext. And Sandra, you are the one that works hands-on with both the charity that I'm thinking of, I don't want to name clients, and the physiotherapist. Have you seen any issues with the way that pulls in when you're processing any of the receipts?
I have not actually. And the physio, we have it set up, like you said, the code is actually H opposed to HST. And when I go in, everything just has to be taxed or coded to that. You can also set up in the supplier rule, so it automatically does that, and it will just pull the HST that, like you said, that we've already set up in QBO.
Yeah, and that would be in, and this is Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, if we go into the settings, and maybe I will pull up my demo account while I'm talking about this in Dext. So it would be under the settings, integrations, and tax, I believe.
Ooh, that's a difficult question. Not super technical, but basically,
I'm pulling up my demo account right now.
So just to give a global kind of answer. So within Dext, you set it up that when it goes over into QBO, that it applies the rules that you have there. Because I know it's a question that I guess sometimes from US customers as well, like, oh, it's only 50% deductible. So that rule, that 50%, or I can only do this much with this amount of HST, as long as you pull in the right amount of HST or the right amount of tax or VAT or whatever you want to call it, it will pull or will use the correct code within QBO. So it's kind of a system between the two of them. And I see at the end nodding your head. So that kind of makes sense. Whew.
Yeah, and this is where, on the QBO side, again, we just go in and we do the special codes in QBO. So yeah, and we'll call it something different. So our public service bodies, what we do is I actually create a group code. And same thing with meals and entertainment. We create the group code where part of that goes back to the original expense. And so on our charities, because we have 3 charities currently using this with that. And so essentially we've got a special code, and that's the one that we tell them to use to override in Dext, is to do that. But again, we're still reviewing, because what happens if there is, they purchase something that was, exempt or something like that. But otherwise it'll pull that code, and then it'll automatically know that code is going to be a percentage of this number, and pulls that, and it works.
Perfect.
It works. Sandra,
it looks like Katie had to follow up, but then she figured it out. So I think your explanation worked. So Thank you very much.
Now, for anybody who still has any issues, and I know there's a lot of partners on this call, so if you have any questions that are a little bit more technical in nature, we do have your account manager you can fall back on, because I do see a lot of that. And then we have a partner success consultant. So everybody has one of those in the back of their pocket. They are specialized in, let's say, QBO, QuickBooks Desktop, Sage, or Xero. So they will be able to help you out with these kind of workflow issues, or workflow questions.
Perfect. And I can't find my, apparently I don't have my demo account set up to Dext. So here's my actual account. And again, there's ways of using the US as well. I just want to point out here, what we do is the US, and this is a great little thing as well that we do for everybody. What we do is, this comes out of a Canadian account. So yes, this sits in Dext until I see it go through in the bank feed, because I never know. And this is not a Dext issue, guys. I will come out very clearly, say it is so frustrating. And you say, why don't they know the exchange rate if it's the exact date it goes through? The reason being is because the bank has additional fees that they charge. So that is why you will never get it matching. And even when I get a little note from the bank saying, here's the hold that it's been put through, that still is without the bank feed. So we hold it in here until it goes through, put a little note in the details. So this would say, X number of dollars US. Actually, what's a really good one? This isn't a good one to use. Ready? Code breaker technology. This is a good one to use. So the currency is Canadian dollars. That's how, because it's coming from a Canadian credit card. In the description, I have USD, and this is only because I have multi-currency turned on my account. If you don't have multi-currency, you don't have to worry about it. It will say US dollars and do a conversion rate, and you just might have to just fix that. because I have multi-currency and this is a US charge that comes from my Canadian card, I have to treat it a little differently. So I put the description in here, and this one, I've got 2 different amounts that come through. So obviously this is one of those rules. So I'm going to have to change that to be, this one is $99 because I've got 2 subscriptions exactly the same. And there is no way that I can put in here to let Dext differentiate the difference, because the only way I know is when I look to see this is different here, but Dext was able to pick up, it was $99. When I see this go through on my account, it'll be 121 and change, whatever. I then just simply override this to be the actual Canadian dollar. And again, this says CAD. If this went to USD, it would automatically go to my US accounts and try to match there. So only if you have multi-currency on and you do this is when this workaround has to happen. Otherwise, if this were a normal account without multi-currency turned on, I would just, again, have the US amount filled in here, let it stay US dollars, and then do that. But here's where the extracted account, and you can see, so here's my meals and entertainment codes. So here's the meals and entertainment HST, it pulls it all in. If I pick that as the default rule, yep, it's going to make this the default for that. It's now only going to give 50% of the HST through to there. Of course, there isn't on here, but it would pull 50% of that amount and push that through, and the other 50% would go back into the main meals and entertainment account.
Awesome. Just to, Tanya, just for people who haven't really used this at all, what Dext will do is we'll pick up on what currency it is. And then if it's not the same as your base currency, then it will give you the equivalent on the date of invoice in that currency. So it does know the exchange rate, what it's supposed to be, what you're saying, Tanya, especially in Canada. The banks give like what, 3%, 1%. It really depends on what kind of bank.
There's
that little fee. So that's why that doesn't match perfectly. But it will give you pretty good indication where to find it on your reconciliation part on your bank.
Exactly. So if anybody gets frustrated, that's not a Dext thing. I would love to say, hey, it's a Dext thing, because if it's a Dext thing, means Dext can fix it.
Yeah.
It's not a Dext thing. It's a Canadian banking thing. So, but here's under your integrations. This is where you can go ahead and you can set the default tax code. So here then for your PSBs is where you would go and you would set the default tax code for the account. Or if you go under the suppliers, and this is where the supplier rules come in, this is where you can set the default tax code under any of the supplier rules. So I know we'll grab somebody, and here's the supplier rule. So I can have it on the account level, or I can have it on the supplier level. We can get into here and I can change it. So that's how you have the beauty of that to be able to work with it. And this pulls from QBO. So the only other thing that you have to keep in mind is if you go and fix it in QBO and come back here, it's not automatically going to be updated here. You just have to go and resync your lists, and it'll pull in. You resync your lists, it'll resync all your codes, resync everything, and you'll be good to go. All right.
All right. We got 3 more questions. You want to keep going with them? We are at 1:45 already.
Well, and that's okay, because we're dealing with the questions as they come up. We don't have much more to go, so we can make sure Michelle's got his time. So catch up, we talked about that. So how do you prefer to handle business purchases using personal funds on multiple credit cards or debits? So with that, I will say we push everything through as an accounts payable. So Dext is smart enough to be able to tell by the last 4 digits of the credit card number. You can set it up there and it'll know where it got paid for and push it through as an expense. We don't use it that way, and that is our choice. We push everything through to AP. Then once we've done that, we look at our AP list and we say, well, they went to McDonald's. We know McDonald's doesn't have AP, so they've obviously paid cash for that or something. And that'll then I'll go up and I'll look. So we push it all through, match the bank feed, and then anything that's an anomaly, then we go through and do that. So that's how we catch things that, you know, are made personally versus putting it through as an expense, and then you find out when you reconcile. So that you can still find out the other way. You just go to reconcile their business credit cards and you're like, okay, I got 10 expenses here that weren't, you know, that weren't here. So there's other ways, or again, set it up to read the last 4 digits of their credit card and know that and you can map it, that goes to a, you know, personal shareholders credit card or something in QuickBooks. So there's tons of ways to do that. How do you pull the report for a sole prop? let's hold that till the end. That would be a Sandra thing, I think, how to do that. Or even if maybe Michelle, there is there's actually a link to a quick thing to pull it. And again, it's just an expense report. It is nothing fancy. It's the expense report with the chart of accounts built in. And Melissa's asking, so with no sole prop for accounting software, do we use it as income sales or just expense report? Oh no, I put my husband's income in there as well. We can do it at income. Again, it's how we put it in there. I've got the whole chart of account in there. I've got, my daughter has a small business and she takes a picture of her receipts and the receipts come in and it says, nope, this is income. And it gets mapped to the income. And again, pull the expense report. So it works beautifully there. And they use their own, Matt said they use their own personal credit cards to make business purchases. Do you use expense reports in that case, Matt? You could. We don't, we just move it to cash on hand and then over to shareholders, but you absolutely could do that in expense report, but you would need to know up front then that is the personal credit card and not push it through to your accounting, but you could, and that would actually be very eye-opening for the accountant or for the client to be able to say this much was used or for them to be able to reimburse themselves. So I absolutely see the use case. Michelle's nodding, so that's good. We just never used it for that use case, but that's an awesome use case. Okay, so we'll just go real quickly. Hobby business, it's exactly the same thing, except for maybe we just get them to do it once. It is a bit of a pain in this, I will say, because then we either have to recreate a new Dext account or we can get them to purchase their own Dext account and they can pay for it annually, or they can cancel it and come back again, but I wouldn't do that attached to mine. Clients can purchase directly, just not at the same discount price that we get. But the problem is if they're coming back, it's not that easy to reactivate an account. So what I would do is bring them over and just say, hey, it's going to cost you X number of dollars a year for the software, and then just submit it whenever you have it. That's honestly the best way to do it. Because otherwise, if you can't reactivate, now you have to go ahead, get them set up, different email address for, different business name and, reset up all the rules in the chart of account. It's just so much easier to do it once. So we would just work that out. When we had tax clients that did that, we just said, here's if you do it, here's if you want to submit the receipt. And we basically took our out-of-pocket cost of Dext and threw $10 a month on, because we're going to have to go in and play with the, the expense reports and whatnot at the end. That was $120 a year. That was fine. And then that way it covered the software for clients to use it, and clients loved it. Loved it. Expense reports, we've talked about that. Supplier rules, we've talked about that. The things we look for: date, supplier, amount, category, tax amount, because those are the Canadian anomalies that we want to make sure to verify. Sales, you can do sales through Dext and it's the exact same process, except for it's just the opposite. We have most of our clients, other than one or two, I think, use point of sale systems, but we did have those that, they're handwriting their sales receipts or snapping the picture and putting it up. So absolutely, it's used exactly the same way. You set the sales rules. We still verify the same things because, again, that's us. Tax audits. I want to say here, tax audits, you can go in and do an awesome search. And I'm going to get Sandra for you to share your screen. Go ahead, use my account to maybe show all the advanced search functions real quick, and then maybe real quick how to pull the reports. Tips and tricks. She's going to go through the advanced search. Merge supplier and customer names. You can merge it right here. So before they go through, so that's where Dext will say, hey, there's no account. Do you want to create a new vendor, a new supplier, a new customer name under this? Pay attention to those folks, because if you don't, when it goes through to QBO, you're now going to have another one in QBO. So fix it here. You can merge them. So whenever one comes through, Dext is smart enough to say, hey, you've already told me that belongs over here. So it'll do that. And then you can separate a receipt. If somebody takes two pictures of one on one, you can easily kind of do a separation. It does merge the duplicates. Again, anomalies up in Canada. Sometimes my Canada Post ones, if I do two packages at once, it does that, but you can easily go in and unsplit the duplicates. And if it does go through as a duplicate, it's easy to track. because again, it just merges into the same one. So you can easily do some searches. And Sandra's going to show you the searches, how to do that in the expense reporting. And we're talking real quick here. So Sandra, go real quick because we've got to give Michelle some time.
That's fine. Go for it, Sandra.
It looks like I can't share my screen, Tanya. You have to.
Oh, really? You're not special? No, I'm just kidding. It's the default. They changed it. Okay, share away.
So share.
And we don't have any other questions right now, which is good. So at least we're answering the
Okay.
questions as they come up.
So real quick, the advanced search is kind of here. You can go in, you can search by supplier, you can search by amount, you can search by date, due date, invoice number, currency type. You can see there's lots of advanced searches here. You
And
can
where
also,
that's good, sorry, other than if you're doing a CRA audit, which is great to do that if you're looking for specific ones, you can, because then you can pull them all out into one. The expense report can also give you a direct link to every item in there. So you don't have to pull every item individually. It's beautiful. But if somebody says, I already sent that, well, now you can go look and see, did it accidentally merge into another one? You know, maybe they sent one 4 times and they were slightly different. But so there's lots of times where we're using the advanced search.
yeah, that, and I also like using the filters as well. If you're looking for stuff that was read or unread, not merged, merged. There is a few different other ones that I do use if you're like flagging things and you just want to look at things that were flagged. So you also have those filters as well that I like as well.
Yeah.
And then the expense reports are pretty easy. They're actually just right in here. Once you've put everything into the expense report, coded it and done that, you can just go down here into expense report. We don't have any, but you go into the inbox and then you can pull it and it will bring it out into your Excel sheets and you'll have everything right in there.
And you can also add it again if you're dealing with IRS or CRA, because again, I'm not sure where you're from, Canada or the States, but you can also go in here. And while I'm talking, I'm going to launch another poll because I realize we've got another poll to launch. So I'll launch this poll, but you can also add it. There was a little box at the bottom you can tick to add it to the expense report. So again, this is where dealing with your audits, making it really, really easy to be able to go in and pull through that. Okay, so this poll is up. I'll give people questions. So we've answered Tracy's. Excuse me. And Dext has an absolutely amazing library of videos on how to do things as well too. Absolutely amazing. So we've got Katie. Okay, so Katie says her firm, and this might be Michelle, we might need you a little. So they're having a difficult time with uploading via email. When do you use a single versus duplicate email? So we only email in it. So one thing that we need to know is when emailing in, it won't take the words if there's an attachment. If there's no attachment, it'll take all the body of the email. So I don't necessarily email in as often and try not to, like, because clients will be like, well, I emailed it and I put a note. Well, we don't see that. So that just comes with a little bit of education with your clients, but ending up with a multi-page document as say 5 separate documents. So if they're emailing in, Michelle, and they've got 5 PDFs attached in one email, does that go in as 5 separate or does that go in all at once?
I'll show you actually. If I can share screen here, I will go into it. So this is what it looks like. I know Tanya is really big on taking a picture, but there are other options, right? Drag and drop, scanning,
there are many other options.
Invoice switching is great as well. I'm not sure, Sandra, if you're using it for any of the big suppliers like an Amazon or Home Depot, just getting connected and we pull it from there. The question, Tanya, for the email, so if you use single, indeed, it will look, if there's an attachment, we'll take the attachment as the invoice or receipt, because that's usually where we get it. If not, it will look at the body of the email and actually post it all in here. When you look at the body of email, this, for example, this one was like that. So below, it will have everything. Now, if you do want a note in here, it actually is a way. So if you use #note, whatever you want to give to advise or description to your person, #note again, it will come in here. Okay, so there is a way of doing it. So you all learn something new. With the app, it's easier, right? You can just add a description right there.
You're right, exactly.
Now it does matter. Like most of the time, people have, okay, I have one attachment, one invoice. I'm just going to forward it to the single one. Okay, that makes sense. If you have multiple attachments, meaning multiple invoice or receipts, maybe you scan them in that way, then there's a use case for multiple. So then that's when you use it at that moment. If you switch it up, then you'll see wonky things happening, or things being missed or things being split. Okay, so majority of the time, just single mobile application. I do want to show one more thing, because you guys all use a mobile application. What I love, and which is usually, wow, when I show this, is it's a messaging tool. So if you have a question about a certain invoice or receipt, your client has the app set up. I'm typing it in here, just like I'm typing an email. They get that little annoying red dot on their phone, so they have to answer, right? So they see the invoice or receipt, and they can answer you as easy as a text message. Sandra, how much do you like this? And first of all, are you using it?
I have, yep, absolutely. And you're right. Something's not clear. You need them to re-upload. Something's happened. Absolutely. You just throw that little note in there, and you either get a message back, or they re-upload and they do what it's a great feature to have. I completely forgot about that, but yes.
They need to have their notifications turned on their phones, which I
Yes.
think these days most of us do anyway. But I know I usually default to, do you want to allow notifications? No. Ensure that they don't default to no. And then, yes, it'll save you a lot of time, because you don't have to download it, attach it, and say, look, I can't read this or whatever, or have a whole email thread back and forth with the client going, well, I just uploaded you 100 receipts, but what are you talking about? It's all right there.
Awesome. Now, if it comes to the archive, and people were asking, like, how do you get information? I know you guys are really big on using expense reports. Anything that's in the archive, you can export. You guys are losing a lot of CSV files, so there's all the pieces of information and then a link to the image. That's kind of what it looks like on your end. You can get a PDF with all the images underneath each other. We can back all of this up for the client. Like, hey, especially in the States nowadays, like IRS is beefing up. So I want a digital archive. We store for 10 years. So you can back it up in Google Drive, OneDrive, or Dropbox. Same thing for the sales workspace. Same thing for the expense report part. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. If you have specific questions, by all means, account manager, partner success consultant. If you're brand new to the game, Tanya and Sandra are deep into Dext, so this might be a little bit overwhelming. Sit back, relax, talk to somebody like myself. We're gonna explain you properly, and then there's always onboarding, right, Tanya? You don't learn everything in one day. Leanne, any other questions or anything else you guys want to mention?
Yeah, there's a few. And Anna, first off, one answer was not the best poll. My apologies. I thought I had that set to multiple answers. If there's any multiple answers you guys want to put, throw it in here. If you missed a poll, throw it in here. It's just to make sure that you're active. So absolutely. With the email, there was a question in here that clients can't seem to email to the proper address. We actually don't ever, I don't think, go with Dext suggested addresses.
You changed the name, add Dext and CC.
We set something up a little bit easier for the client, and tell the client to add it into their contacts and name it Dext. If they add it in, they name it Dext. When they type in, boom, it just goes through really easily. But we still try to make it a little bit easier for the client, because you're right, sometimes that can be a little overwhelming. So we've got that, and the fetch document seems to be inconsistent, even with large suppliers. So this would again be for yourself, Michelle. Is there a best practice to improve this experience? So on my side of things, and then please let me know, from what I've understood, it has to do with the API of the supplier, which is constantly changing with security needs changing and breaches and whatnot. Is that the case, or?
Yeah, so if it comes to invoice fetching, it is something we're heavily invested and focused on, but we can only do as much, right? So if we have a connection with Amazon, for example, one of the bigger suppliers, if the client changes the username and password, then technically that invoice fetching will stop, because we originally had that. Now, one of the things I do want to show if it comes to that is invoice fetching. I would like, as much as possible, recommend have the client drive. So what I mean by that is, when I set up invoice fetching, I can do it in two ways. I can say, okay, well, I'm going to fill in this information. I'm going to collect that information, and I'm going to do it on my end, connect. Now, if something is not working, I prefer you not doing that and send like, hey, Bob, I'm going to send you an email. It's just going to ask you for your username and password. They're going to do it on their side. If something is wonky, then it's really easy to do the back again, right? So don't collect information. Like, I know it's difficult nowadays. I know there's always going to be the supplier that just changed something new, or the client that changed something without really telling you. ask the client to do it on their side, have a reconnect, and it will pull even historical information most times. So, but yes, if there's anything that we can help with or you notice something, please let us know, because we have a dedicated team to help out with this.
And that's smart. I think the last time I went in there and did it, we couldn't ask the client to connect, which is why I had Sandra on too, and why you're on here too, because yes, it's I'm not always in there to that. So that's great, because then the client gets the email notification right away, and there's no delay in them getting reconnected. So that's beautiful. While you were on there, I noticed Dropbox. So Christine's asked, can we send a backup file to the client through Dropbox?
Yeah.
Did, right?
So Dropbox is actually one of those few ones we can actually pull from Dropbox as well. This is great if you had something already set up. Like I had a system where we set emails up and we had Dropbox already in place. But if it comes to storage, and I'll show you with another demo client here, I can do under my connections, obviously I have my integration here, but if it's file storage, I can choose one of these four. I'll be honest, I have no clue what this is. But the other ones are OneDrive, Google Drive, and Dropbox. So when I have a connection for my client, I just click backup and it goes directly into their Dropbox, their Google Drive, their OneDrive. So if you have that client who's a little bit more worried, not a problem. Click, they have an extra backup.
Yep, and that's beautiful. Absolutely. So we've got, and I am going to, I can stay on a few extra minutes. I'm so sorry that we went over. We'll blame it on my little Tom and Jane commercial. But are you okay to stay on a few more minutes, Michelle, if everybody else?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. We will keep recording. So if anybody does have to leave, just watch the last few minutes. I will make sure that you get a copy of the recording. It will be out there on our YouTube channel as well. So what we've got is, and we'll get to the pricing in just a quick minute here, because now there is document matching seems to be inconsistent. I think with that is you're meaning Karen, and again, it seems to be a Canadian issue. Still good to be Canadian. Sometimes it's so frustrating at other times, right? But I think that seems to be a solely Canadian issue. What we do is, this is where when Sandra showed the read and unread, we actually pop into our archive files. We used to do it a lot more consistent. I don't know. It was in our kind of our weekly process, but like I said, I'm only working on these other files, but we go in to our archive list and just click to filter by unread, because if there's anything that's there that's unread, it got pushed through and thought it was, a potential duplicate. And sometimes, again, we're looking at the OCR and the AI. It's only as smart as the receipts. Canada Post is a big one. If I mail multiple things, and even though the receipt number is different, it doesn't track it as an invoice. It doesn't track it as a receipt necessarily. It can't see that. And they're all on the same day and they're all on the same amount. It'll merge them all into one. So if we go in there, that means that there's a document we haven't seen. So that is kind of our backup, because again, it's not completely perfect and it's not necessarily the OCR or the AI's fault. You can only do with what you're given. And sometimes that is just going to happen.
Yeah, we actually check for date, supplier, and amount, and that happens to be the same for this specific issue or specific situation. So yeah, that falls through the cracks.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's where you can go in. You can look at your unread, because if it's unread, it's probably not there, or it's probably been missed. And, we do checking with the bank feed. That's where we kind of go. And this is where I do believe that the first thing we do before we go back to the client and say, can you submit it again, is we kind of check there before we ask them to submit it again, isn't it? We just do a quick check there, just like our AP list, a quick QA check. And then we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so the last thing is invoice fetching. In theory is great, but it seems to break so often that it's not reliable. Again, it's just like our bank feeds and QBO. We're dealing with ACI or AIP, API. Thank you, API. You're dealing with their systems, and when they are constantly upgrading their systems to be safer, whenever there's a breach, the last thing that those companies want to do is go tell all their clients what they've done in the back end. So they don't know it happens until it breaks. And that's just, unfortunately, I think one of the things that come with tech. But the great workaround for that is, as you say, have it go to the client. So the client gets notified whenever something breaks, which is beautiful.
Yeah, there's no extra cost involved as well. Somebody else was asking that. Like, is there a cost for
that was the next one. I was going to say, go into your pricing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna go too much in detail because I know there's people from the States, there's people from Canada. I don't want to like. There's an exchange rate, there's a fee, there's a difference. Okay.
Yep.
But all you need to know basically is that we bundle our pricing in little groups. We got a little bit more flexible in that, so we always try to change things, and then based on where you start out, you're gonna have some support, onboarding support. That could be one-on-ones, it could be multiple session if you have a bigger team and so forth. But I would say at the end of the day, it's most important is having a conversation with us, knowing yes, it's gonna save us a bunch of time and work, and then pricing is just the next step. Okay, I want you to be able to kind of have a good conversation, be convinced that this is the right solution for you, and then we can definitely go into detail on this.
And then just to jump back to the other person who mentioned about the pricing for singles, what you can do, the workaround to that we do, and I tell all, I've told every single bookkeeper that I coach and work with that has had that same thing. When they're starting it, they're like, there's strict budgets. I don't want to pay for 5. You can go on to Dext. You can go on to the business pricing. You will pay more, but, and this is a whole other conversation, you should be charging, hopefully building that price in, because that is the value of Dext. That way, if you're building that price in, if your prices on your apps get skewed a little bit, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, because you've got a little bit of a buffer in there. But if you go in, set a client up, you can still put it on your credit card to pay for it. You just don't get the wholesale billing until you have 5 clients or 4 clients or whatever, whenever it's ready to move it over. So there are ways that you can still slowly do that. You just don't get the benefit of the wholesale pricing per client yet. But you can still do that to fit the budget, or the client can pay for it directly. That's strictly.
And when the time comes, we can transfer those clients over in your partner plan, where you have that messaging tool built in, where you can request, for example, we didn't really talk about it, but request paperwork if there's like things on the bank you see that they don't submit. So all of those kind of things, like it's a conversation I have with a lot of people. Like, not everybody is as big as KPMG. Not everybody has 20 clients ready to go. Like, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to talk to people like that as well. Like, hey, I have 2-3 clients. What's the solution here? And it might not be the partner plan for the beginning. It might be a couple months under that direct client, like you said, Tanya. So,
but there's ways. There are ways it can be done. Absolutely. Then when you move them to the partner plan, do not decrease that price. But yeah, so there's ways of doing it. Okay, so I think we've answered everything. I've got some names on here. So thank you, Karen and Richard. I love it. And thank you, everybody. But I do love it when I see names of people that I know, and I see that they're putting on here that I've brought value, because if I've brought value to people that have been in the industry for a long time, that's always good, because I know I brought value to probably almost everybody on the webinar. I'm sorry to those of you, if you've got overwhelmed, you will get there. As Michelle said, one step at a time, you'll get there. Feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to try to help, with stuff. If you've gone through your account managers and you're like, hey, what's all that stuff Tanya was talking about, and they can't figure it out, reach out. We want to help. We're a community. We're on our, you guys are probably on my Facebook group, wherever. Find us, but you've got your account managers. I did put out to those of you, Michelle, there are people that do want you to reach out. I will pass all of that along. And yep, that's great. Yeah. And Matt, thank you for the comment. So again, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate the time you've taken to be here today. Michelle, thank you so much.
My
Sandra,
pleasure.
thank you so much. Yeah. And that's great. I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful day, and let's be like Jane. And now
have a great
I'll
afternoon,
share
everybody.
that out. So if you guys want to share it, go ahead and share it. That was just me in a corny mood. So try to get myself inspired as to what to do here. So
All right, Tanya, Sandra, have a wonderful day, and go back to work. All right, go back to Dext.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.